Morning, everybody. On this Sunday, I've been just watching what's been going on in the in southeast Texas, in the Houston area, in and around from Houston to Galveston. The rainfall amounts have been just unbelievable. In some places, 2 feet of rain fell in the last 24 hours. In some, there were area reports of as much as 10 inches of rain falling in 1 hour's time, and it just keeps coming when we look at the radar. A hard tropical storm Harvey has been essentially stationary just west of Victoria, and actually there's been maybe a slow southeast drift, and some of the weather models want to bring it back out over the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico, which, by the way, I don't know that necessarily is a bad thing, because of the fact that if it does at least move, it might shift the area of rain away from where it has been and move. I mean, I hate to say this, but another 12 to 18 hours of rainfall that will put down at least another 12 to 20 inches over areas that have already gotten 20 inches. At least it would distribute the rain a bit to some other areas that may have gotten much less. But I don't know how else to what other option is there. But we're going to switch over to the video. I'll come back and we'll talk about this a little bit more. So hang on one second. Really is astounding what has been going on in terms of the rainfall. The proximity to the coast here is about 100 or so miles, and the circulation remaining over the water, and the fact that this tropical storm now has maybe moved all of a couple of miles during the overnight. You can see it just sort of spinning away. These feeder bands continue to develop out over the open waters of the Gulf of Mexico and then swing northward and northwestward, and it's in the area right in here that they are just getting unrelenting rainfall that not only was it on the order of 2 feet in some places overnight, but it's likely to double that amount, and another 1 to 2 feet of rain will fall during the day today. And given the fact that this is really going absolutely nowhere, it could be another 1 to 2 feet in some places during the day on Monday. We're seeing that there's still, obviously there's a close circulation here. This is still a tropical storm strength. Harvey's look on the satellite is has degenerated somewhat from what it was yesterday. But the next question will be, well, actually there are several. One is, how long is this going to keep going on? The other one is, where's the track going to be? Because there are a few models that want to bring it back down southeastward toward the coast and then offshore, and that actually may not be a bad thing for some areas, because at least it moves it, and it might shift the area of, certainly would at least shift the area of rain away from some area spots, although it will bring it to others. So I'm not so sure whether it's a bad thing if Harvey were to move back southeastward, if only to at least attempt to perhaps shift the rain, the axis of the heavy rain, over somewhere else. I mean, I know that sounds bizarre to have to look at it in those terms, but when you're looking at a radar like this, and you can just see the radar echoes here are ridiculous. You've got all these heavy rain bands. The boxes are the continuous severe thunderstorm warnings and the occasional tornado warnings that are popping up in some of these bands of rain that are swinging up north and northwestward. Here's Houston, so it's right in the middle of all this. I'm going to switch over and go a little further south just to see on the southern end. This is the Corpus Christi radar, where there are some bands of rain going on, but they're on the southern end of all this, south of the circulation center. Here's San Antonio, and there's Houston. So you can see the whole triangle here with regards to where the circulation center is, which it looks like it's right about there. Okay, So it's really not that far inland, west-northwest of Victoria, and some of the models are trying to drag it southeastward back toward the coastline over the next 2 days. I'm going to go back to the Houston radar now, and I'll put up the rainfall map. This is the storm total so far. And right in the white scale on the side, the white area is 25 inches or more. So between Houston and Galveston overnight, 2 feet of rain has fallen, and there's a huge area of rain that is on the order of 18 to 24 inches. And it's just really astounding. And the red, anything that's in the red area is a foot or more. It's almost like you're looking at a snowfall map, the way in terms of the geographic coverage of heavy snow would be. This is in this case, it's heavy rain. It really is. In some places, this is going to be epic and record-breaking. Allison from 2001 is the signature storm that most folks in that area remember because of its rainfall, which was on the order of feet in some places. I think this may wind up taking it out. Now, why don't we take a look at what the models are doing with this? I'm going to start with the HRRR model, which is the shortest of the short-term models, and it comes out every hour. And I'll back it up. Make sure I got the latest one. We actually have, well, this is the latest full run, and we have a new run coming in. So the HRRR continues the big rains for southeastern Texas, and you can see that the actual center of the low just sort of drifts southeastward by this evening. This is 1 a.m. Monday morning. The low center is just inland of the coast on the HRRR model. And this is on the latest full run we have. This one only goes to 10 a.m. tonight, so we'll run this back. And I mean, this is just crazy rain that goes on. But the HRRR at least attempts to shift that heavy rain away from the Houston area during this evening and tonight, as the low center looks like it wants to drop southeastward. So that even that little motion might pivot some of the rains away from the areas that have been getting it since late yesterday. And in terms of rainfall amounts, I mean, these are just this is just 15 hours, folks. This is 15 hours of rain here. Okay, so we're talking up until from now until 11 p.m. tonight. The purple areas all 6 inches or more, with the embedded orange areas of a foot plus. And you notice that the axis of the heavy rain today seems to be shifting a little bit further north, away from the Houston-Galveston area, but that's a relative term because it still puts Houston and Galveston on the order of 6 to 12 inches of rain for today. And notice how the rain profile in terms of the rainfall amounts, kind of, when you look at the look of it, it looks the way a tropical storm looks on a satellite view, and the distribution of rain with the heaviest rains going on to the northeast of the center. So this has been amazing from a meteorological perspective, historical, and we're still not done with this, obviously. Let's quickly go through the NAM model. The NAM is perhaps a bit tamer with its rain. The NAM, on the other hand, does bring Harvey offshore, and let's go back. I just want to start from the beginning. It does bring Harvey southeastward. It continues the rain into East Texas into tonight, but gradually it takes the surface low representation of the center of the tropical storm back out over the coastal waters by 7-8 a.m. Monday morning, and just rotates it there along the coast. Now, it also starts to drop the pressure a little bit. It would imply that there might be some strengthening here that could happen if this is the case. And by the way, let me roll you back just to the time. From the time it rolls offshore, which is tomorrow morning, it stays there on the NAM model at least until Wednesday morning, Wednesday afternoon when it brings it back on the coast. And the global models last night, the GFS, the European, the Canadian, all had some semblance of this idea. So honestly, I don't know how to approach this from a forecast standpoint, because if this is correct, you might find, worsening tropical storm conditions in areas near the coast and to the south of the Houston-Galveston area over the next couple of days, if this winds up going back out and strengthening again. Now, remember, the Gulf of Mexico is very warm, but the water temperatures have been cooled by the upwelling caused by Harvey when it went through the first time. So, and with the circulation over water still, that water is being churned up. So the water is not nearly as warm. I would be rather surprised if it's certainly not going to get back to what it was. I think if it was like worst case scenario, it would strengthen back to a strong tropical storm. Maybe an outside chance it could get to a minimal hurricane if it were to go far enough out into the open waters of the Gulf, assuming that this is going to be the ultimate outcome, because there are other model options in terms of track. We're going to stop here because I wanted to just do something with respect to Harvey, and I will separately address the other issues regarding the possible tropical system development off the southeast coast of the United States. System development off the southeast coast of the United States. I'm here. Okay, so let me just go over a couple of things. First off, with regards to Harvey going back out into the Gulf of Mexico, the extent to which the models do this, it doesn't take it that far offshore, but it does take it far enough offshore where you might see some development of some sort. But again, I want to emphasize that the water temperatures are probably about 3 to 5 degrees cooler now than they were pre-Harvey. So this is not going to make this is not going to get back to the way it was, obviously. It could possibly organize back to a strong tropical storm. I think there's probably an outside shot, depending on one thing or another, that it could wind up going to minimal hurricane. I don't know. It has to get out there first, and not all models do this. But I think it is a possibility that you could see this drift to the northeast. One of the things that's going on is this trough that's swinging in the eastern part of the United States. That is too. It's not far enough south to pull it northeastward from here. But apparently, it is at least enough of a weakness to perhaps cause this to drift southeastward toward the coastline. And as I argued before, at the very least, it would shift the axis of rain away from areas that have already seen devastation from the flooding. So, I hate to even put it in these terms, because it then becomes someone else's problem. But there's no other way to really look at this. Marquise, if you missed the whole live stream, you're on it now, and you can always play it back. Obviously, it's not that it's a short one today. Now, the other thing I want to point out is the system that's off the southeast coast. So, you know what? Let me see if we'll try and attempt to do that right now. Let me pull up a satellite view of the eastern part of the United States, so we can see everything that is going on at the moment. And you can see that we have this frontal boundary that runs off the east coast. The weather is beautiful here in the northeast, a few patchy clouds out to the west, but that's about it. And this frontal boundary extends southward to off the southeast coast of the United States. The old tropical wave 92L is wrapped up in here, and you've got some clouds and showers and thunderstorms off the Florida coast on the east side, and still some that extend down along the Florida west coast. In the meantime, here's Harvey just spinning away, and you can see how the feeder band on the satellite develops just out in the coastal waters, and then rides, when we look at the radar loop from there, it rides up north and northwestward into southeastern Texas. It's just not moving. So as long as it's not moving, this pump of moisture is just going to continue through the day today and into tonight. And some areas are going to wind up doubling their rainfall amounts that they had from overnight, which you saw on the radar from earlier was on the order of 12 to 25 inches in some places. Now here's the tight view of Harvey again, and there you have. It looks like the center's probably right about there, so you can see it. And look at the visible, by the way. You can see the heavier cloud tops, the higher cloud tops just to the east of Galveston. This is another one of these feeder bands, and here's another one behind that. So it's just going to go on and on for the rest of today. Amazing. This is going to really be an epic storm when this is all said and done. All right, so with regards to 92L, just really fast, I think what's going to happen is that, some kind of low is going to develop. Now, if the low develops just offshore, it has a shot of becoming a tropical storm. I think ultimately it straddles, if whatever happens, will straddle the Carolinas and then move on northeast or east-northeast off the Carolinas out into the open waters of the Atlantic. The NAM has an inland low, but then that would argue that this system would probably be less tropical in nature because the NAM overnight wanted to take the rain further north, and it almost looks like a frontal wave you would see in the wintertime. If you're watching in the Canadian Maritime provinces, I would just kind of pay attention to see what comes out of the southeast coast of the U.S. because some of the global models do make it into a hurricane when it's east of the Carolinas and moving northeastward, and bring it close to parts of eastern Nova Scotia and Newfoundland in the longer term. We'll address that later today. I'll do another live stream probably late this afternoon or this evening with regards to, we'll address that particular issue along with whatever the other issues with regards to whatever is going to form off the East Coast. And of course, we're going to keep watching Tropical Storm Harvey because, as we said a few days ago, this thing was going to be around for a long, long time once it moved inland. And, this is playing out accordingly. And it should be also, by the way, noted that, in situations where forecasts don't necessarily pan out, and some people kind of get upset over the fact that they don't get the tragedy that they were hoping for, take a good look at what's going on in Southeast Texas today, and remind yourself that if there's a forecast for a tropical storm or a hurricane or a snowstorm in the wintertime or severe weather or whatever it is, and it winds up being something far better for you, where there's less damage or less inconvenience or whatever, you should be thankful for that and not lay open criticisms out to forecasters because it wasn't as bad as you said it was going to be, or to me that's kind of like saying I'm sorry. My response to something like that should be, I'm sorry you didn't get the tragedy you were hoping for. Take a look at some of the video from South Texas and what some of the people, the Southeast Texas, and what some of the people have been going through in terms of rescue, and be very thankful. Also in South Texas, where there was rain and wind damage when the storm came ashore, be thankful. Okay? All right, everybody. Sermon for Sunday is over. We'll see you later on another live stream, and have a great rest of your day.